Okay, the next fly we're going to tie is the woolly bugger. This is the most, probably the most common fly that's used probably three-quarters of the time. Very straightforward, 100 million variations. We're just going to show you one. This one's deadly in the Huron River too. So first we're going to tie in our base, like we always do. Okay, and I just kind of go over it a couple times. That just gives you, again, something for the materials to bind down on. Okay, in this case, the first thing I'm going to tie in is the wire. And again, this is just a, let's see if you can see this without too much glare. This is a lead-free round wire, and it just adds a little weight to the fly so it gets down some. The streamers tend to go for bigger fish, and they tend to stay in deeper water. So we're binding this down in there. Now the most important part of a woolly bugger is this material called marabou. And marabou comes like this. It's very cool. And this stuff in the water just undulates. So now how we're going to tie this in is we're going to tie this at the hook, bend of the hook, and we're going to use basically the length of the hook to bind it in. So we're going to hold it right there. So I'm measuring, see? Then I'll hold it here. And then I'll wrap this around 2 or 3 times. Pretty tight because this stuff gets a little slippery. And then I'm going to trim this off. Okay. And now I'm going to take a feather, and this can either be a black feather, or in this case we're going to use a sort of the same kind of color olive feather. So this will be an olive woolly bugger. And I find the tip of that, and I bind that in real well also. So binding that in real well. And then finally, lots of materials on this, but once you do it, it's pretty quick. And then I'm going to have some olive chenille. So I've got lots of junk tied up on the end here, so you want that all real tight. Sometimes at this point, you can even put a little bit of dab of glue there. I don't bother. Okay, so then you take your string and bring it all the way to the eye. So now the order of moving things forward. First we take the chenille and we wrap this forward. And we wrap it up to the tip. Don't wrap too close to the tip because you want a little bit of space for all this other stuff. Remember, it has to get up there too. So give yourself a little bit of space. So I took 3 or 4 wraps around there. I trim it and then just give it a couple more for good measure. Now we're going to take the wire and we're going to wrap this around like maybe 4 or 5 times. There, that looks like about 4.5. I'm going to wrap that, and that does 2 things. It gives it a little bit of a shine, a little sparkle under there, and it gives it weight. Again, red wire would actually work pretty well. Now we take this hackle that we started with, and I probably should have told you to take this fuzzy stuff off. You don't really need that. And you know those hackle pliers you've been using? You can actually use these here. I typically don't use them, but I'm going to use them in this case. And then we're going to wrap this around, and what you'll see is it'll get real spiky. The magic of chicken feathers. Get it to the tip, and then when you're close, hold it. Wrap this around a few times. Trim it, and now you're going to make your head. And this is where you make a nice black head. Is actually gives this thing a little bit of definition. So I'm just going to wrap a whole bunch of turns here. You notice if you're close to the line, if you keep your bobbin thread short, you can wrap a lot very fast. If this is real long, it takes you a long time to get that done. So I'm going to tighten this back up. So there you go. I've got a whole bunch tied on there now. And then I'm going to tie some half hitches, some doubles, some singles. An old flyer fisherman taught me that once years ago. I don't know if it does anything, but that's what he told me to do. So I will pass that along. Trim that off, and there is your perfect woolly bugger. And that fish, that fly will catch a gazillion fish. You need a lot of these. A lot of these. And that's it. Remember, that is the woolly bugger.